Hello team, my name's Andy Dudley, and this is just going to be a quick video on how to set up the existing Epiknowtator application. There's going to be 4 things that we'll have to install here. First requirement is going to be Java, specifically the Java 1.8 JDK. So if you don't have that, go ahead and install it. You can get it from java.com. After that, we're going to need the Spring Tool Suite, which is what the initial Epiknowtator application used as its backend server. You're also going to need the Epiknowtator application source code itself, as well as MongoDB, which is what the application is currently set up to use as its backend database. So to get started on this, the first thing that you'll want to download is going to be the Spring Tool Suite. If you were to go to Google and type in STS download, the first results should be download STS Spring. Go ahead and select the relevant operating system. It works for Linux, Mac, and Windows, and download the zip file from there. Once you have that downloaded, we'll go ahead and look in my downloads folder here. There should be a zipped file or tar file, depending on your operating system, for Spring Tool Suite. You'll go ahead and extract that, and once it's extracted, you should end up with an sts-bundle folder in your downloads directory. If you're on Windows, you can move that folder into your program files, otherwise put it wherever you want your application to stay. You can leave it in downloads, but it's probably not the best decision, even though that's what I'm going to be doing here. So once Spring Tool Suite is extracted, you'll also want to add it to your path. So if we look inside of it here, let's go ahead and move into the STS bundle folder. You'll see inside of there are a couple other directories. The program that we're looking for is inside of sts-3.8.4.release. And in here you can see that there is a program called capital STS. That's the actual Spring Tool Suite application. So wherever this folder ends up on your system, you want to make sure that you add the path to this folder, either to your system environment variables on Windows or to your Linux path. The other option, if you're on a Unix-based system like OS X or Linux, would be to create a symbolic link from this STS executable into user bin or some other directory that's already on your path. So that's what I'll do here. I'm just going to create a symbolic link from my STS in my current directory. We have to give it the full path name here, so just print working directory STS, and I'm going to create that symbolic link inside of the user bin folder. And I like everything to be lowercase, so I'm going to change it to all lowercase STS for that link. And if everything works correctly, that link should now exist. So now if I run STS from my terminal or from your command prompt, it should launch Spring Tool Suite. You can go ahead and place the workspace directory, which saves configuration files, wherever you want. I just leave it in the default directory. And click OK. If everything works properly, it should launch Spring Tool Suite. And now that we have the application, we'll want to download the existing Epiknowtator application itself. I'm not sure how this data, how those files are going to be given to you, but it seems plausible that you'll get them through a GitHub. So I'll show you how I would get them from mine. I will go ahead and git clone my working directory for this. Git repository, I should say. Oops. And you can download this into whatever directory you want. I tend to keep all of my projects inside of a projects folder. And once it's been cloned, we can go ahead and open that folder up. And we'll want to add this folder into our Spring Tool Suite. So we can do that by just selecting the File menu, clicking Open Projects or Open Existing Projects, and selecting the path to there. It'll be just the root Epiknowtator folder, so it should look like this after you've selected the project. And go ahead and click Finish. So we can see the applications in here, possibly with a few errors that we'll have to resolve. Okay, so first let's go ahead and actually add the server itself that we're going to need to run this. So to do that, in the bottom left-hand corner, and it looks like after we opened that, it just took a few seconds for it to scan through the file, and it resolved all those dependencies. So those errors have disappeared. So in the lower left-hand corner, right-click inside of this little servers box, select New, and click Server. When we were given this project, they had been using the Apache Tomcat server, so we will go ahead and select that. And we used Tomcat version 7. So select Tomcat v7.0 server and click Next. Now, since this will be the first time that you're running this, you'll have to download and install Tomcat, which you don't have to go out and do from your browser. You can just click this Download and Install button, accept the terms of service, and then select the folder that you want to download it into. I believe I actually have it here. Yeah, I created a new folder, I named it Tomcat, and I then select that Tomcat folder as the destination. But since I've already done that, I'm just going to put that in here. And when that download completes, you should see this folder name pop up, and the Next button should become available. Also, for the Java runtime environment here, you should end up having Java 8 available, or Java 1.8, which also happens to be my default workbench. So I'll leave it as that and click Next. And this is an important step. You don't want to click Finish back there. You want to click Next and select the Notator application and move it over to the configured option, which is going to move over the run configurations for this program. And click Finish. So if that's been done correctly, if you select Run and Run Configurations, and actually it looks like we might have to run this once for that to work. So that's been added. We'll select the project notator, and we'll click Run As at the top here. Select Run on Server, select the Tomcat version 7 server that we just added, and we should be able to click Finish from there. Yep, so just click Finish, and it should get set up and eventually launch a web browser. Now I'm going to double check inside of here under Run and Run Configurations. Yeah, so after the first time you've ran that, you should have this Tomcat v7.0 server at localhost inside of your run configurations. If you don't have this, chances are that you forgot to actually move the application over to the configurations for Tomcat 7. There's probably a way to get back to that screen, but I don't know what it is. So the other option would just be to delete that server, re-add it, and then make sure you click Next instead of Finish. So now we have the base application set up. It looks like everything's running okay from the start. We can verify this by launching our web browser, and it hosts it by default at localhost:8080/notator. Now, when we were given this application, it already had this existing page, and we never got rid of it. So you'll first get a hello world page, click on text, and it'll redirect you to the application itself. So it's a good thing if you get to this point. However, we are still missing the MongoDB server that it gets all of its data from. So we'll go ahead and close this, and we can keep Spring Tool Suite open, I suppose. But now we need to install MongoDB. So again, it's available for every operating system, or at least the main operating systems. You can Google MongoDB, go to their website, click download on the top right, download it for your operating system. And from there, I think that's also going to be, all right, so for Windows, it's an actual installer. For Linux, it's a zip file, and for OS X, it's a zip file. So for Linux and OS X, you'll download it and extract it the same way you did for STS. For Windows, you'll run the MSI and it'll install it. Now, I think for all of them, again, just like Spring Tool Suite, you'll want to add MongoDB, the folder containing the executables, to your path. So it's different for every operating system. If you don't know how to, again, look it up. It's inside of system environment variables for Windows. If you're running Ubuntu, chances are that MongoDB is actually already up and running, and you'll find that out the hard way when you try to install it or you try to run it and it throws an error. For Windows and OS X, the first time that you run it, it's probably going to throw an error looking for a folder named data/db. So on Windows, I know that's just in your root C drive. So you'll go into your C drive, you'll create a folder called data, and then inside of that folder, you'll create another folder called db. From there, you'll run it again. So how do you run the Mongo server? You'll do that just by typing MongoD inside of your terminal. Like I said, it's already running on Linux, so I get an error. But once you have that data DB folder structure set up, this should run successfully for you, and you will want to keep the terminal open or add an ampersand at the end of it to run it in the background. And when the server is up and running, you'll then be able to run the Mongo command, and this is where we're going to end up putting our database. So right now there's a few collections that we use inside of Mongo, and one of them is set up to work properly so that you can just import new files and load existing files from the get-go. However, the ontology itself, this existing application does not automatically load the ontology into your database if it doesn't already exist. So if you were to continue with this existing code, you would need to add that in there. But for the initial setup, just go ahead and go into the Epiknowtator folder that you downloaded. And from there, you'll want to navigate into source, main, resources. So inside of this resources folder is a tree.json file, and this is what we need to import into our initial Mongo database. So you'll type in mongo import --JSON array --db space Epifinder, all lowercase, --collection, and the collection name is ontology, all lowercase. Then you'll use the input sign, the less than symbol, and the tree.json file. So if this has been typed correctly and the MongoD server is running, you should get a notification saying that you've successfully imported one object. We can see that if I type in Mongo here and type show databases, or actually show DBS, I think it is, we can see an Epifinder database. So if I use Epifinder and then type show collections, we can see that there is in fact an ontology collection, and I could do db.ontology.find, and I wanted to type pretty here for pretty print, and we can see that data has been loaded. So that ontology in this existing application is what gets loaded in the left-hand side of the application, and we can see here, if I full screen this, that we now on the left-hand side have this data loaded from the ontology. So we can also confirm that the database is working correctly by clicking the File menu, clicking New, and let's just make a test document here. And to choose a file, I'm going to go inside of the Projects folder, Epiknowtator, and inside of Resources, there's an existing text file. So I'm going to select that and upload it. And clicking that, it uploaded this text document to the server that Spring is running, the Tomcat server, and then that Tomcat server parsed it into the Mongo database. And now we can see that this text is loaded. I'm able to highlight things. I can select items from the ontology on the left-hand side and then highlight these objects with different colors. And I can also save those highlights by selecting Menu and clicking Save. So if I were then to create a new document here called test2, and I'm just going to pick something random, so I'm going to select this tree.json file, and then I go into Open and I select the original test, we can see that those highlighted annotations have in fact been saved. So that's the initial setup needed for this. It's possible that you'll run into other issues that I didn't hear. Let's see if I can think of some of the main ones. So if you don't have the correct version of Java installed, you're going to run into issues where it says that you don't have the required libraries. If you install it afterwards and then you need to add that correct Java version to the program, you can do so by clicking Notator at the top here, which will ungray properties inside of the project menu. And from here we have a few options. The Java build path, and then should look like this. So we'll see right now I have Java 1.6 and Java 8 here. It should, I believe, work with just Java 8. At some point in time, a change was made to the code that screwed up our dependencies and required that we move to 8. But if you were to have issues, you could try also adding 1.6. Also, so you then, to actually add those libraries to the code, select the Libraries tab, and then you can add them from here. So add jars should give you the option, or add library. Yeah, so from there you can add your Java library. If you have issues where it looks like, I think it's called JSPX or something like that, isn't working correctly, you can open Project Facets, and inside of here select the Runtimes tab and select the Apache Tomcat runtime. Should add the requirements. You shouldn't need to do that because it's set up in this project already. And that is it. I hope everything works well for you, and I will see you in the next video.